Welcome to your storytelling. Enjoy the stories and don't forget to subscribe. You know what's funny? When my husband, Caleb, first applied for that job, he didn't even want it. He said it was too corporate, too uptight, too far from what he actually wanted to do. But I pushed him. I told him it was time he took his career seriously. We were thinking about buying a house, starting a family. He needed that promotion, that steady check, the benefits. So he cleaned up his resume, borrowed my laptop, and applied. And when he got the first interview, he barely acted excited. Until he met her, Marla, his boss, the woman who would change everything. I remember the first time he mentioned her. "She's just intense," he said. "One of those alpha women who makes everyone nervous." He meant it as a compliment, I think. But something about the way he said it rubbed me wrong. Like he admired her. Or feared her. Maybe both. She was single, powerful, glamorous in a hard-edged kind of way. The kind of woman who doesn't ask for attention, she demands it. And I should have trusted my gut right then. But I didn't. Because I was too busy being proud of him. Too busy being the supportive wife. Too busy missing all the signs. I wasn't supposed to find out about the conference. He forgot to mention it, casually, like it didn't matter. "Just a quick overnight team-building thing," he said when I asked. "Oh, didn't I tell you?" "No, Caleb, you didn't." And I didn't like the way he said it either, like he was testing me. I remember thinking, why would a junior analyst be invited to an executive conference? He brushed it off. "Marla likes my ideas," he said. And that's when I saw it, the glimmer. Not in his eye, but in his ego. Like he was already addicted to the attention. He brought back a hotel receipt tucked in his laptop bag. And it had lipstick on it. No joke, actual lipstick. A faint smear of red, right across the signature line. I stared at it for minutes. It felt like a punch to the heart wrapped in a piece of paper. I didn't say anything right away. I wanted to be sure. I told myself it could have been anyone's. A waitress. A cleaner. Anything. But deep down I knew. Because I knew Caleb. And I knew how he lies when he wants something. When he walked in with that big stupid grin on his face, holding champagne, and saying, "I got it." I wanted to vomit. He got the promotion. The one that was impossible a month ago. The one he swore was so far out of reach. But suddenly, Marla believed in him. She even hosted a private dinner to celebrate his potential. And when I asked if anyone else from the office was invited, he flinched. Just a flicker. But I caught it. And that flicker was all the proof I needed. It started with the late-night meetings. He'd come home later and later, claiming that he had extra work to finish. But I knew something was off. The way he looked at his phone every time it buzzed, like he was expecting something. When I asked who was texting, he'd smile awkwardly and say, "Just work stuff." But it wasn't just work stuff. I could tell by the way he rushed to the bathroom, the urgency in his movements. It was like he was hiding something, someone. But I didn't have proof. Not yet. It was the smell that got me. He walked through the door, and I immediately knew. The scent wasn't his usual cologne. It was her perfume. Marla's perfume. I couldn't place it at first, but I remembered it. It was subtle, sexy, and expensive. I didn't say anything right away. I just went into the kitchen, pretending to make dinner. But inside, I was boiling. What was going on? How much had he been seeing her? And why did he think I wouldn't notice? It was at the office party when everything unraveled. Caleb was acting strange, distant, almost like he was trying too hard to act casual. He was laughing, drinking, chatting with everyone but her. Marla, of course, was everywhere, eyes glued to him whenever he moved. I could see the way she looked at him, like she owned him. And Caleb? He didn't look uncomfortable. He looked content. In fact, he even leaned in, whispering something to her in front of a room full of people. I was sure they weren't talking about work. I couldn't breathe. That's when I found the texts. I should have never gone through his phone, but I did. I was trying to justify my suspicions, telling myself it was just curiosity. But when I saw it, when I saw their conversations, I couldn't breathe. It was filled with intimate details, jokes that were too personal, and plans to meet up. The worst part? There were texts about their first time together, the chemistry they had when they'd stayed in a hotel. I felt sick. But the worst part was the message from her. "You deserve this, Caleb. Don't let her get in the way." It was clear now. She wanted him. And she had him. I confronted him that night. It wasn't a calm conversation. There was no way I could be calm. I asked him straight out, "Are you sleeping with Marla?" For a moment, he didn't say anything. He just stood there, looking at me like a deer in headlights. Then he mumbled, I didn't think you'd find out." I nearly screamed. You didn't think I'd find out? I wanted to throw everything in my hands at him, but I held back. Instead, I looked at him, my voice shaking, and said, "How long?" He swallowed hard before replying. "A few months. A few months." I had no words. None. He denied everything at first. "I didn't want to hurt you," he kept saying, as if that made it better. "Marla and I, it's not what you think." I couldn't even look at him. How could he stand there, in front of me, lying like that? I wanted to scream, to break something. But instead, I just asked one simple question. "Did you think I wouldn't notice?" His silence was my answer. He'd been lying to me for months, and the worst part was, he thought I wouldn't figure it out. That hurt more than anything. Caleb tried to justify it all, twisting his words in a way that made him sound like the victim. "She's my boss, Claire. You don't understand the pressure." I had to play the game. The game. I couldn't believe it. He was making excuses for cheating on me. But what really struck me was the way he looked at me, like I was the problem, like I was somehow to blame for the way things had unfolded. He'd been sleeping with his boss for a promotion, and now he was trying to act like it was all part of the corporate game. I didn't know what was worse, the betrayal or the fact that he didn't even feel guilty about it. Maybe he never did. The worst part? He got the promotion. After everything that happened, I thought for sure he'd be demoted, or at least reprimanded. But no, Marla promoted him, just like she promised. It felt like a slap in the face. I remember staring at him when he came home that night, a smug grin plastered on his face. He tried to play it off, acting like it didn't matter, but I saw it in his eyes. He thought he had won. He had the promotion. He had Marla. And me? I was just the wife left in the dust. I couldn't escape the betrayal. It haunted me, every hour, every minute. It was there when I woke up in the morning. It was there when I tried to sleep at night. I could feel it in the air, thick, suffocating. But what was worse than the betrayal was the fact that Caleb didn't even seem to care. He was too busy celebrating his promotion, basking in Marla's attention, and taking my place in their corporate world. He wasn't even sorry. And that realization, that was what shattered me. The person I thought I knew, the man I married, didn't exist anymore. A week after everything came crashing down, Caleb insisted we have dinner with some of his colleagues. I didn't want to go, but he begged, saying it would look bad if I didn't support him. I couldn't bring myself to say no. So I went. It was the most awkward dinner of my life. Caleb was all smiles, laughing at jokes I couldn't hear. And Marla? She was sitting right next to him. Flirtatious, touchy, and far too comfortable. She didn't even acknowledge me. It felt like I was invisible. But I wasn't. I was just there, in the background, a bystander to the mess Caleb had created. The realization hit me one morning as I watched Caleb get dressed for work. He was no longer the man I married. He was this stranger, distant, cold, consumed by his corporate world. When he kissed me goodbye, it was nothing more than a formality. I had become just another fixture in his life, something to be checked off his list. I had allowed this to happen. I'd been too trusting, too naive, believing that he was just doing what any man would to climb the ladder. But now it was clear. He was in love with power, and I had become a mere accessory to his ambition. I stopped talking to him. It wasn't that I didn't want to scream, to shout, to demand answers. But I couldn't. I couldn't even look at him. So I gave him the silent treatment. I moved around him like a ghost. He'd try to make small talk, but I wasn't interested. I wasn't interested in his apologies, his explanations, his excuses. And the worst part? He didn't even notice the distance I was creating. It was as if he was more focused on his career than saving our marriage. And that stung more than anything else. I couldn't stay out of it any longer. I started digging. It started small, checking his emails, reading between the lines of the conversations they had at home. But soon, I was deeper in it than I ever wanted to be. I found out about their secret meetings, their late-night calls. He'd lied to me about everything. The promotion? Not his merit. It was her, Marla. She was pulling the strings, making sure Caleb got exactly what she wanted him to have. I couldn't believe it. It was like a game to her. And I was the one who lost. One night, Caleb casually mentioned something that made my blood run cold. "We're going on a business trip next month. Marla's coming, of course." The way he said it was so nonchalant, like it was just another day in the life. He had no idea how much that one sentence shattered me. I wanted to say something, to call him out right then and there. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled and nodded. But inside, I was crumbling. Because I knew, she was always going to be in the picture now. And he was too far gone to care. Something inside me snapped. I couldn't keep living this way, half in, half out of my own marriage. So, I made a decision. I couldn't change Caleb. I couldn't make him love me the way he once did. But I could change myself. I didn't want to be his wife anymore. Not like this. Not when I was just the woman behind the promotion, behind the career, behind her. I didn't need him to validate me anymore. I was going to find my own way. And it started with walking out of that house. Walking away from the lies, from the betrayal, from everything he had built with her. I packed my things in silence. The house was eerily quiet as I stuffed clothes into bags, trying to ignore the tears that kept threatening to fall. I was leaving behind the life we built, the memories, the broken promises. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing. I couldn't stay. Not in that house. Not with him. Not when every corner of it reminded me of his betrayal. When Caleb walked in and saw me, there was a flicker of panic in his eyes. "Where are you going?" he asked, his voice filled with confusion. I looked him in the eyes and said, "I'm going to find myself again." And then I walked out the door, leaving him standing there, powerless to stop me. I found a small apartment on the outskirts of town. It was nothing fancy, just a place to start over. The first few days were tough. I felt lost, unsure of what I was supposed to do now. But as time passed, I began to rediscover who I was before Caleb. I focused on my career, my friends, my own happiness. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Free from the lies, free from the heartbreak, free from a man who had made me feel invisible. I wasn't sure if I could ever forgive Caleb, but I knew one thing. I was going to be okay without him. It was weeks before Caleb called. I'd blocked his number, but he found a way to reach me. He left a message on my voicemail, and hearing his voice again made my stomach turn. "Claire, please. I need to talk to you. I know I messed up, but you need to hear me out." I didn't listen to the rest. I couldn't. Hearing him beg for forgiveness was the last thing I wanted. I wasn't his to fix anymore. He had made his choices, and now he had to live with them. I didn't know him anything. Not anymore. I found out that Marla wasn't the only one who had been playing games. It turned out Caleb's promotion had come with more strings attached than I realized. He wasn't just in her bed. He was also tangled in her corporate web. The moment he took that promotion, things started changing in the office. Other employees were pushed out, demoted, or ignored, all to make room for Caleb. I had no idea how deep Marla's influence really went, but it was clear that Caleb was willing to do anything to stay on her good side. I couldn't help but feel vindicated when the truth started coming out. He thought he had won. He thought he had everything. But he had lost me, and that was something he would never get back. I ran into him one afternoon at a coffee shop. It was the last place I ever expected to see Caleb, especially after everything that had happened. He looked different, more haggard, as though the weight of the world was on his shoulders. When our eyes met, he froze. There was a moment of silence before he took a step toward me, his voice soft. "Claire, I didn't want this. I didn't want to lose you." I wanted to tell him how much he had hurt me, how he had betrayed me in the worst way possible. But instead, I just smiled politely. "I've moved on, Caleb. You should too." And with that, I turned and walked away, knowing that I was finally free. Not long after the coffee shop encounter, Marla reached out to me. At first, I thought it was just a prank. Why would she want to talk to me? But when I saw the text message, my heart dropped. "We need to talk. It's about Caleb. Please hear me out." I wasn't sure what to expect, but I agreed to meet her. She showed up looking every bit the confident, polished woman she always was. But there was something different in her eyes, a hint of guilt. She started talking about Caleb, about how she never intended for things to get so complicated. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, and for a moment, I almost believed her. But then I remembered everything. The lies, the betrayal, the promotion he'd gotten because of her. "I didn't ask for your apology," I replied coldly. And just like that, I walked out, leaving her standing there. The more I heard about Caleb's rise in the company, the more I realized how far he'd gone to get what he wanted. He wasn't just sleeping with his boss. He was using her to eliminate competition. When I spoke to a few of his old colleagues, the stories came out. Promotions were handed out based on who you knew, not what you could do. Caleb was no longer the man I married. He was a corporate player, willing to sacrifice anything or anyone for his own success. It made me sick to my stomach. I had no idea what kind of man I had been living with all these years. But it wasn't the man I thought I knew. That man didn't exist anymore. Some nights, The loneliness was unbearable. I'd lie awake in my small apartment, the silence louder than anything else. I would think about Caleb, about how he once promised me the world, how we used to dream together. But then I'd remember the lies, the manipulation, the way he'd betrayed me. He wasn't my husband anymore. He was just a man who had used me to get ahead, and that's all I would ever see him as. The nights got easier, though. I found strength in being alone. I didn't need him to feel complete. I was starting to learn how to live for myself again, without him weighing me down. I spent months wrestling with my emotions, but one thing became clear to me. I couldn't go back. I couldn't let Caleb back into my life. No matter how much he begged, no matter how many times he tried to explain himself, I knew I had to keep walking away. It wasn't easy. There were moments when I thought maybe he had changed, maybe he was sorry. But then I'd remember the truth. He wasn't sorry. He was just sorry he got caught. And that made my decision final. I wasn't going to be another piece in his game. I was done. It's been a year now, and I can finally say that I'm okay. I'm not just okay. I'm stronger than I ever was before. I've rebuilt my life, focusing on things that truly matter. My career, my friendships, and most importantly, myself. I've learned that I don't need anyone to define my worth. I don't need a man's approval or anyone's validation. I am enough, just as I am. And as for Caleb, well, he's still climbing the corporate ladder, using whatever methods he can. But me? I found my own way to the top, and I didn't have to sleep with anyone to get there. Thank you for listening to my story until now. If you like the video, please support it by subscribing and liking.